It's time!
Oh, right on the chin.
Mamma mia! What a knee!
You cannot stand in front of that man. That power is different. It's extraordinary.
And another opponent!
Whoa!
What a head kick! It's all over! A spectacular finish, just like that! Headshot, bang! Done!
What's up, everyone? Back with another episode of The Fight Corner. This is episode 5. Today, we're going to be taking a look back at last week's UFC 299 with a recap of the entire card. Really great fights, fantastic card. Can't wait to break this one down, so let's get right into it. Kicking everything off with the main event from UFC 299, Sean O'Malley defending his Bantamweight title against Marlon Vera in a rematch from their first fight, where Vera obviously got the KO win, damaging O'Malley's leg in that first fight, and then proceeding with some vicious elbows in the ground and pound to finish that fight off. This was a completely different fight to their first one. O'Malley started off with some really good body work, and very typical of Chito, he was slow in the first round, slow to start getting off, throwing very little and being very inactive. It is a staple of his in a way to kind of just build as the fight goes on, but as we'll see, he never really got that momentum going. In the second round, it was just more accurate shots from O'Malley, and he landed a flush knee right to Vera's face, rocked him, caused a cut under the eye. But to be honest, I think this knee would have knocked out 9 out of 10 people in the Bantamweight division. That one person who wouldn't get knocked out was Marlon Vera. But he did come back a little bit at the end of the round with some decent shots. But again, he got stumbled near the end with a right hand from O'Malley. And this just kept continuing on throughout the rest. In the third round, O'Malley landing much cleaner strikes, evading the majority of Vera's attacks. But at the end of the round again, Vera did have a little bit of success on the feet, but nowhere near enough to make any kind of definitive statement to steal the round or anything like that. The fourth round probably was Vera's best round, landing some really good shots, busting up O'Malley's nose, but it was just not enough. O'Malley was still on point in this, landing good shots and landing the better shots, to be honest. And I could maybe see a judge possibly giving this round to Vera, but in all likelihood, it's 4-0 going into the fifth round, and Vera is going to need that finish, and it didn't come. More big strikes from O'Malley early in the round hurt Vera really badly, compromised his vision on his left eye now, and he's got that cut under the right eye as well. But again, Vera did have some moments in this round, but just nowhere near enough to get the finish that he needed. The end of the round, though, he did land a solid left to the body that clearly hurt O'Malley, and maybe if there was a little bit more time in the round, he could have capitalized on that, but it was literally right at the bell, and that was it. O'Malley gets the unanimous decision, 50-45 times 2 and 50-44 on the other judges' scorecard. Great performance by O'Malley. He did call out Ilia Topuria for his next fight, which I don't think is the way to go. You have a lot of top contenders in that Bantamweight division. This is your first title defense. And to be fair, I think this fight really only happened because O'Malley wanted to avenge that loss that he took against Vera early in his career. But he's got a lot of work to do in that Bantamweight division before he even thinks about going up and challenging people at 145. Especially Ilia Topuria. I think that's not the route that the UFC wants to go right now, and it's definitely not the route that the Bantamweight division should be going at this time. The co-main event, probably the fight I was looking forward to the most on this, the one that I was really nervous about for whatever reason, and really wasn't sure how this was going to play out. Dustin Poirier and Benoit St Deni. Fantastic fight, absolutely amazing. A real furious pace that first round. Both guys landing really good shots. Poirier going for several guillotines throughout that first round, but St Deni defended them all and ended the first round looking for an armbar, which Poirier was able to easily defend as well. And in the second, after hurting St Deni, Poirier again jumps for the guillotine, which was defended by St Deni, who moved right into mount and had Poirier in some real dangerous situations, flattening him out, threatening with the choke. And I think that if St Deni would have unloaded some punches here when he had him flattened out, he probably could have gotten the finish or at least really damaged Poirier. But Poirier was able to get back to his feet, and when he did, he started to put it on St Deni, landing a beautiful uppercut and a right hand to the body before dropping St Deni with a perfect right hook, which sent him crashing to the canvas. Poirier followed that up with a thunderous right hand, turned the Frenchman's lights out. Unbelievable performance. I was going absolutely mental at this point in the fight, and Poirier remains one of the top contenders in the lightweight division and is most likely going to be facing off against Islam Makhachev in that Saudi Arabia card coming up later this year, or in Abu Dhabi. That's basically the word on the street now, and I think that's what's going to happen. And this was probably, again, just a case of too much too soon for St Deni. He's definitely going to be a contender in this lightweight division going forward. Just needs to kind of get a bit more polished. But when that happens, people are going to need to watch out because this guy is a killer. Another fight on the main card that I think a lot of people are really looking forward to, especially the fans in the UK, was Kevin Holland against Michael Venom Page in Page's UFC debut, coming over from Bellator. Really great opening round from MVP, utilizing his bladed and point fighting style, landing strikes from way on the outside, hurting Holland with right hands, and then a vicious spinning elbow at the end of the round that cut Holland just under the eye. And this was pretty much a similar story through rounds 2 and 3. Holland was able to get the fight to the ground in the second round and land some really good ground and pound, but MVP was able to work his way back up to his feet and get back to work, landing that right hand. And then just like in the first, he landed that spinning elbow. Slightly missed, kind of was more on the shoulder, but still very dangerous fighter. And in the third, it was just more dominance from MVP. Holland just really didn't seem to have an answer for the puzzle and was clearly getting frustrated at not being able to put those pieces together. And Venom Page went on to win this by unanimous decision, 29-28 times 3 on all judges' scorecards. I haven't looked back to see exactly which round was given to Holland. I'm assuming it was the second, but a really great performance by MVP. And it'll be really interesting to see what he gets next in the UFC and how he's able to kind of go forward, whether he'll be a title contender or not in the welterweight division. But the UFC is known for giving certain people from certain areas of the world a bit of a bigger push towards a title shot and really ramping up the promotion behind certain fighters, again, just depending on where they are, UK, Australia, Europe, etc., etc. Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. First round was very much a feeling out process for both guys. Burns was able to get the fight to the ground early and nearly took the back of Della Maddalena, but he showed really good defense and was able to get back to the feet. After a few minor exchanges, Burns got the fight to the ground again with a really well-timed double leg. And in the second round, more big moments for Burns, landing a solid elbow on Maddalena. But Maddalena just still kept putting punches together and not just single shots like Burns was landing. Burns did get another very nice takedown, and he used one of my favorite wrestling and grappling techniques, the cradle, and was able to get to the back at the end of the round, but didn't really have enough time to get anything done. In the third round, Maddalena hurt Burns early in the third, forcing a takedown out of Burns, which initially was defended by Maddalena, but Burns worked his way back into a fairly dominant position against the fence with one hook in, but Maddalena rolled out of it, got to his feet, and just instinctively knowing that Burns was going to shoot again, he threw up a knee that rocked Burns hard and sent him crashing down to the canvas. Maddalena jumped on top of him and finished the fight with some brutal ground and pound. And there's definitely a new contender in the welterweight division. He called out Shavkat Rakhmonov at the end of this fight, and I think that is a fantastic matchup for the UFC to make. Do it in Perth, do it anywhere. I don't care. I'm going to watch it. Every UFC fan's going to watch that. Fantastic fight, great call out, and a really great performance by Jack Della Maddalena. And finally, kicking off the main card, we had Petr Yan and Song Yadong. Fantastic fight, this one. Really great. Round one was a strong round from Song, landing some really hard leg kicks. And whenever Yan would turn one of his own, Song would come back with solid shots upstairs. And Song also showed off some really good grappling skills and had Yan biting hard on all of his takedown feints. Really kind of fidgety. And in the second round though, this is where Yan started to turn it up, just like he does in most of his fights, as he really builds as he gets into the fight. Landing some really hard shots, good uppercuts and shots to the body. And Song was also having moments of his own, but Yan clearly had the advantage in this round, securing a takedown at the end, cutting Song on the face, and it's all to fight for going into that third round at 1 apiece. But Yan carried that momentum that he built in the second right through the third. Song clearly slowing down, Yan able to keep the fight where he wanted it, on the feet or on the ground. It did not matter. Landing solid jabs and more of those uppercuts, and he finished the round with another solid takedown, landing some more ground and pound and looking for that Darce before the round ended. And this is exactly what Petr Yan needed to get back in that title picture at 135. Fantastic fight over a really top up-and-coming prospect, and it'll be really interesting to see kind of who he gets paired up with next, because I don't think he's going to fight down in the rankings at all, and the only people above him he's already fought: Corey Sandhagen, Aljamain Sterling, who is moving up to 145, and Merab Dvalishvili, and then obviously you got the champ Sean O'Malley. So I mean, potentially maybe a fight against Marlon Vera, but I really don't see that happening. So yeah, be interesting to see what the matchmakers come up with for him in his next fight. Moving on to the prelim card. Kicking off that, we had Curtis Blades and Jailton Almeida. Almeida dominating Blades in the grappling in the first round, not letting Blades get any offense off whatsoever, just kept the fight against the cage, multiple takedowns and mat returns, really was able to show off his control in the grappling, and it seemed like this might have been the story for the rest of the fight, but in round two, Blades turns it all around when Almeida made a pretty bad shot at a single leg. Blades stuffed it, forced his head down, and then just unloaded with hammer fists and finished the fight from there, and that was it. Done and dusted. In Blades' post-fight interview, he did say that he would like to have another fight against Tom Aspinall, obviously when they fought in London. A very anticlimactic ending with Aspinall blowing out his knee, but with Aspinall now being the champ and really probably looking for a bit of a more high-profile fight, no offense to Blades, against either a Stipe, a John Jones, someone like that. But Aspinall's a warrior, and I wouldn't put it past him to accept this fight either in the meantime, because to be fair, those Jones and Stipe fights probably aren't going to materialize anytime soon. Caitlin Surmanara, formerly Caitlin Chookagian, taking on Macy Barber in the women's flyweight division. Really grinding first round, lots of clinch work, and strikes in close. Barber did really seem to be bullying Surmanara in the opening round. The second was much better from Surmanara, keeping the fight on the outside, looking good with punches and kicks, but not that much sting on them, but still scoring. But for the second half of that fight, Barber was able to implement more of her game plan, close the distance, and continue her clinch/bully game through the second half of that round. And in the third, more offense from Barber. Surmanara was just unable to keep the fight in her range and was very late in breaking free from the clinch positions when she had the chance and getting that fight back into space. And this ends in a unanimous decision for Macy Barber. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not 100% sold on Macy yet. I know she's got a lot of hype behind her and people are really excited about her. I just really haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I need a little bit more convincing, I think, before I get fully on the Macy Barber hype train. And in a fight that could probably be a headliner on almost any other card, well, not any other card, any fight night card, or be at least on the main card in any other pay-per-view event, Mateusz Gamrat and Rafael dos Anjos. Big moments in the opening round for dos Anjos, hurting Gamrat a couple of times, but was never really able to follow up and get that finish. And Gamrat worked his way back into the round, securing a takedown, landing some ground and pound, and just really controlled the remainder of the round. And going into the second, it was a lot of the same. Gamrat really just employing his grappling heavy game, controlling dos Anjos for large parts of the round, while dos Anjos remaining mostly defensive and did land a few strikes on the feet, but nothing of consequence. And again, the third, much of the same again. Gamrat continuing to continuously spam takedowns, get into clinch positions, but dos Anjos was continuing to work back to his feet and try to get to the center of the octagon, but again, he was just never able to capitalize on that little bit of success he had in the first round. Dos Anjos is definitely still a player in the lightweight division, but just not at that upper echelon anymore. I mean, the dude's 39 years old. He's been there, done that. What else has he got left really to prove? And Mateusz Gamrat is again proving himself a real top contender in that lightweight division. And rounding out the prelim card, we had Pedro Munoz and Kyler Phillips. And, what else can you say? Kyler Phillips looked really good in this fight. Great opening round, landing a lot of variety of strikes, kicks, punches, knees, and building some real good momentum and hurting Munoz on a couple of occasions in that first round. While Munoz did have some moments of his own, with both fighters having a little bit of damage to their eyes, Phillips clearly took that first round and did it with a lot of style. The second and third, much of the same again. More good rounds from Phillips, putting a lot of good strikes together. His movement, his mobility was second to none, and he really looks like he could be a top contender in this bantamweight division, and he will be entering that top 15 coming next week. Really excited to see what he can do next. And as for Pedro Munoz, it's probably coming to the end of the line for him. Not with his career in general, but his time in the UFC is probably going to be coming to an end pretty soon, I could imagine. And on the early prelims, it was Philip Lins taking on Ion Cutelaba. Lins consistently attacking that lead leg of Cutelaba, doing some real damage. Big welts, lots of swelling. It looked nasty. But Cutelaba kept landing some real good shots upstairs. And Lins also did some real good work on the feet as well with the hands. But it was those calf kicks that were the story of the first and second rounds from Lins. Cutelaba did, again, have some really good moments, but Lins was the dominant one in the first two rounds of this. The third round was a bit uneventful. Both landed some shots, but Lins was far more defensive in the final round, more clinching and using his footwork to escape the forward pressure of Cutelaba. And Lins went on to win a unanimous decision, 29-28 times 3. And the top fight on the early prelims, Michel Pereira taking on Michał Oleksiejczuk. I mean, what can you really say about this fight other than it was an absolute demolition job by Pereira? He came out quick, blasted 2 kicks to the body of Oleksiejczuk, and then a solid right hand that clearly hurt him. Followed that up with another knee to the body before locking up an RNC with no hooks, and forces the ref to step in when Oleksiejczuk didn't tap and basically went unconscious. I mean, this guy's a total, absolute animal. And in any weight division, he came in at welterweight. I think he's obviously way too big for that division. But in the middleweight division, if he keeps putting people away like this and keeps up these performances, he's got a super bright future in front of him. And in that middleweight division, which is a bit topsy-turvy at times, it's not that hard to sneak into a title shot position in that division. And in another demolition job, we had Robles Deshane and Josh Parisian. When Deshane made quick work of Parisian, he slipped a little bit after throwing that head kick, but when he got back to his feet and was going backwards, he cracked Parisian with the right hand. Well, he was off balance too as well, but you could tell there was some real power behind that. Hit him with the same right hand again, and then as Parisian was falling, he hit him again on the way down. And when Parisian hit the ground, he immediately covered up. Deshane threw a couple more shots on the ground. Ref stepped in, called it, and that was it. And depending on how his next few fights go, I mean, Deshane is 4-0, he's 5-0 now, and is very young into his professional career. But if he keeps putting performances like this together, he is going to be a real problem in the heavyweight division. And I think a lot of people will be keeping their eye out to see what he does next. CJ Vergara and Asu Almaev. Definitely gonna need to work on that one. Almaev controlling that fight against the cage in the first round, constantly looking for trips and to try to take the back. Vergara was able to defend really well though, and when they broke off, he did land a couple of decent strikes. But Almaev again showing his high-level grappling, hitting a beautiful takedown and controlling Vergara from the top position for the rest of the round. Second round, much more the same. Almaev dominating with his grappling again. Going into the high crotch, ran that pipe beautifully, took Vergara down, and from there Almaev just flowed and never gave a chance to get Vergara the chance to get back to his feet. Third round, again, rinse and repeat, more grappling dominance. But Vergara did have some moments in this final round, landed some good shots to the body and the head, but it was not enough, and Almaev ended the round on Vergara's back, looking for the choke. Unanimous decision victory, 30-27 on all three judges' scorecards. And we could have another big prospect on our hands from the Kazakhstan region. And finally, the fight that kicked off the entire event, Joanne Wood versus Marina Munoz. Munoz was able to get the takedown in that first round and kept the top position for the majority of the round, landing a little ground and pound. Wood did go for a heel hook, but Munoz defended and stayed on top, so fairly uneventful round. The second, after a brief clinch exchange against the cage, these two really started to throw down for the rest of that round, both landing real good shots, kicks, punches, and elbows. And to be fair, that round could have gone either way. I did edge it for myself a bit in the direction of Wood, but judges could have gone either direction. And in the third, more great back and forth striking. And it was Wood who hit Munoz with a beautiful spinning back fist that rocked her badly, nearly ended it. She could have probably put her out if she would have followed up with a few more punches, or to be honest, if that would have been almost any other woman in the flyweight division, she probably would have gone lights out at that point. Munoz stayed tough though, didn't go down, but at that point Wood was relentless for the remainder of the round, really putting it on Munoz, definitely securing that third round. And in the end, this was a split decision victory for Joanne Wood, 29-28 times 2 for her, and 28-29 by the one dissenting judge for Munoz. And this was really great for Joanne Wood. This was her last fight in the UFC. She was retiring after this. Obviously, she's got a lot of other things she probably wants to do with her life. But it was really fantastic watching her throughout her career. I mean, you don't get too many women from the UK in the UFC, let alone women from Scotland. So she had a really great career. Her record may not show that. I believe it's 9-8 now that she finished her career with. But, you know, she had that really great run in the white women's flyweight division. She was the number one contender back in 2020 and did have a scheduled fight lined up against Valentina Shevchenko for the women's flyweight belt. That fell through when Shevchenko had to pull out of the fight. Wood lost her next fight and never really got back into the title picture, but it was fantastic to see her go out on a win here, and all the best to her and her family in the future. Your fight of the night bonus went to Dustin the Diamond Poirier for that amazing performance against Benoit, God of War, St Deni. No complaints from myself on this one. This was a fantastic fight from start to finish. I can't see anyone that would have an issue with this getting fight of the night on this card. Your performance of the night bonuses went to Sean O'Malley for that dominant performance defending his bantamweight title against Marlon Vera. Jack Della Maddalena potentially coming back, but finishing Gilbert Burns in that third round with that devastating knee and the ground and pound to follow it up. Curtis Blades for that comeback after the first round where he got completely out-grappled by Jailton Almeida, finishing him with those hammer fists on the ground. Michel Pereira for his absolute demolition job on Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I mean, that was just brutal. Those body kicks followed up by that right hand to the liver and then being choked out with no hooks in. I mean, that is... God, give that man 50K, absolutely. And then for his UFC debut, Robles Despagne for his absolute run-through of Jack Parisian. No complaints from myself for any of these. All definitely deserving that 50K bonus. And yeah, great card, great fights. No complaints from myself on any of these. Taking a look at next week's fight card, we got Tuivasa taking on Marcin Tybura from the UFC Apex. And to be perfectly honest, this really isn't that deep of a card or one that I'm particularly looking forward to. And I do think that there's quite a few fight fans that will kind of be in that same boat as I am. Not saying that it's a terrible card, it's just not fantastic. There's a few fights I'm looking forward to. I mean, I don't mind watching Brian Barberena fight, and he's going to be taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Ovince St. Peru, definitely at the end of his career, taking on Kennedy and Zechiku, which should be interesting. And that's, really about it that I'm really excited about. I couldn't even say excited. Just fights that I'm looking forward to on that card. Outside of that, we'll see what happens. Chances are this will probably be one of the better fight cards of the year. That's usually how it works out. But yeah, next week, March 16th, from the Apex, Tai Tuivasa, Marcin Tybura. And that's it. Another episode done and dusted. Episode 5 in the books again. I think going forward, I'm really going to be only focusing on doing these for the numbered UFC events, the pay-per-view events. There's just so many cards coming up. Editing, recording, getting them out there. It's a bit of work, and at this point in my life, I just don't have that much time to do it. I wish I did, but I just don't. I am going to be looking at filling the time between those events though by doing other videos, history of the UFC, maybe doing some breakdowns of former Pride events, UFC, Bellator 1, and hopefully if I can start getting some time in the near future doing a lot more things about combat sports. I'd love to do some more videos on jiu-jitsu and wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai. A lot, really. I love it all. There's never enough time in the day to talk about it or to watch it all. But again, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, watching this, for all the support. It means so much to myself going forward. And again, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I guess I should be saying that at the beginning of the video because I don't know how many people make it to the end. But if you have, thank you so much. And we'll see you again for the next breakdown event, UFC 300. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be fantastic. So until then, peace.